visitors, geographical location of visitors, all of that kind of thing. Now, digital, though, allows a number of things against that measurability. It allows you to trial. Trialing is great. It's cost-effective. It's, what was that, cheap and... Inexpensive. Okay, so you can dip your toe in the water, which is great. You can see what works, and then you can plan towards the future and what works best. It's also measurable, as I say, but it's measurable in regards to the return. Let's take Google, pay-per-click. It's pay-per-click. You're paying for somebody to click on to your website, to your advert, so you know you've got that. You're not paying for reach. What's reach? You're not paying for readership. What's readership? It's very vague, it's very general. Online is very specific to the individual. And it's also, it provides better engagement. And don't get me wrong, as I've already said, good adverts, good advertising engages, and that's fantastic. But what it does is allows it to take it that one step further into a real-time conversation with your clients. It's that read-write relationship of the web. So it takes engagement that step further. And lastly, what it does is it allows you to tailor that engagement. So you're targeting specific individuals. And if you have all of that, what you get at the end of the day is that ability to maximize the potential to get your return on investment. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed those snapshot defences of 3 of the, unfortunately, online outdoor wasn't represented here today. But in having a conversation with Scott last week before his unfortunate accident, he was actually going to talk about customised digital multimedia, outdoor advertising using digital technologies. So to a certain extent, we're already meeting this area of crossover that I think is going to be a common theme within the conversations that we are about to have. We've already identified the fact that there's a fair number of people in the audience who wear more than one hat in this debate. Does anybody have any specific questions? I've got a couple of my own, but does anybody have any off the top of their head questions? If you could bear with us, it'll take a minute or so to get the microphones around to you because we've got one on either side of the hall. If you could please, everybody, as a matter of course, identify yourself by name, your affiliation before you ask a question, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Gary Walker. I'm from the NEMC group. We specialise in direct mail fulfilment. I noticed we haven't covered direct mail. I just wanted, from the collective of you, what your sort of views are on direct mail and what you see the future of direct mail being.
Thank you. If I can start with you, Phil. Direct mail.
I think that there's a massive part to play for direct mail in the future of marketing. I think it's particularly effective in terms of postcode targeting. I've recently had a client who I've actually advised to use direct mail as above radio. And I think that in the future, there's no way that won't continue because of the unique ability that you have to target, as I say, specific postcodes from a geographical perspective that we simply can't do.
Okay. Sarah?
I think there's always going to be room for it in terms of, as I rattled through before, PR campaigns generally encompass a little bit of every discipline, I think, because it works well together, and I'm sure we'll come on to that later. So from a PR perspective, yes, certainly there's always the way forward to work with you in those terms. And I think you're right in terms of when it comes to targeting, it's all about getting into people's space nowadays and reaching them in the way they want to be reached. And sometimes that will be via their doorstep.
Yeah, I think that's a really important comment. That reaching people in the way that they want to be reached is far, far more effective than just reaching them. And I have an issue around radio with that, but I'll come back to it. Mm-hmm. Right, Phil.
Offline isn't really my bag, I've got to say, but I mean, you wouldn't expect a kind of a digital freak to kind of try to argue otherwise. What I would say, though, and I agree with really the point probably of all of this, is that when there is synergy between all of these different areas of marketing communications, then there is strength. And I think as long as there is that synergy, that kind of seamless synergy between campaigns, then that's when all of the different parts, if you like, become a power in their own right as a combined unit. And I think that's where the future lies for you guys, and it's where it lies for everyone else.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from the floor that we have? It's hard to see from here, I don't think so. I have an issue with you. Always had an issue with this on radio. You mentioned the fact that there is less ad avoidance on radio. Isn't that because people don't actually listen to it? They get in, they switch it on, So I do. I get in. Classic FM goes on. The really irritating ads might catch my attention, and I could sing them at you, but I won't be able to tell you what they were for because it's background, it's wallpaper. How would you either defend that, or how do you try and find ways around it? And like on TV, they used to increase the volume when the ads came on, which I always thought was deeply sneaky. You haven't quite got around to that yet. But
No, we haven't stooped to that level yet. Essentially, I think that the answer to your question lies in the creative. Radio campaigns will live and die by the quality of their creative. And what we would always try and do is work with our clients to create an ad that grabs people's attention, that delivers the results they're looking for, be that awareness, be that, drive a footfall, get the phone to ring, get website hits. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that that's the responsibility of the radio station to ensure that ads aren't just background, to make an ad tell a story, to make people almost look forward to hearing the ads. And I can agree with what you said to an extent, but I would like to think that, at Galaxy, that's not necessarily the case, and the results do speak for themselves.
Yeah, even though it is the irritating ones that I tend to remember. I guess I take your point. Sarah, you wanted to
I was just going to say that surely it comes down to, that's where the strength of PR comes into it, in terms of it's to do with the programming rather than the advertising, because you can actually generate that response is what you're looking for from your listeners. It has to be two-way dialogue, which is what PR does. It doesn't just tell, it actually listens and actively engages, and that's where the advertising loses strength.
How about radio phone-ins? They're popular, aren't they?
Absolutely, where you're getting the two-way debate, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly right.
Really powerful.
Anybody in the audience, by the way, if you have any comments to make on this, I'm keeping my eyes open if you've got a particular question. Thank you. Sorry.
Just a quick comment in relation
Can you just
to...
give your name and affiliation, please?
my name is Bruce Caswell. I'm an independent marketing consultant. Just in relation to the radio ads, if you're looking for a new carpet and an advert for a carpet comes on, then you are prime candidate for response. If you're not looking for a new carpet, then it will just disappear into the background, and then the ad wasn't intended for you in the first place. So I hope you don't mind me saying that.
Well, no, it comes back to the point we're making about the right message for the right person at the right time, and it can't necessarily be that personalised on radio as it possibly can online, where you're much more metrically oriented. But it is a perfectly valid point. Sorry, were you saying anything else on that? Any other questions from the audience before I throw another one? Richard, yes. Do you introduce yourself? Sorry, I know you.
Okay, Richard Size, one of these RLN. Just a question, it's about client relationships, really. Do you find that when you're pitching for business that the client is asking for more detail about what you can offer in terms of ROI? Or do you find that you are actually including more details about ROI in your pitches to the client?
Yeah.
I'll start off with that if you wouldn't mind. That's a really interesting question. When we're pitching, generally we do have two issues. Often it's not the strongest of briefs, and you don't always have access to additional information. And secondly, the timescale isn't always brilliant. Now, interestingly, we put an awful lot of time into, what we can deliver technically, and actually what we deliver in terms of added value, i.e. that return on investment. But it's not necessarily something that's asked for. You tend to find that clients just want to know what can you do for them. But again, without that full brief, so you can't really do the best job possible from the outset. I'd always say we should go in, do an audit, what is working, what isn't, what has worked, what hasn't, where do you want to be, and marry it up against the business objectives. And often a lot gets lost because it has to be done quickly, or there are other factors at play, perhaps death by committee. But it's a shame, because actually that's the most important thing, is about, okay, where are you going? How can we take you there? But what else can we do for you along the way? And how can we evolve the strategy as we're going forward? And that does often get lost. It often depends on the strength of the people involved on both the agency side and the client side, because you might have one party who is perhaps a little too junior or not as knowledgeable as they need to be in that role, because that's at that pitch point, you need the head guys in there, because it's setting that strategy. It's got to be business oriented. It's got to be where do we want to go?
Thank you for that, Sarah.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that point, actually. It's very often that conversation about return on investment comes with people who have the business acumen to be able to have that discussion. What